15, 20 years ago, if you'd ask any ordinary Kenyan about a Kenyan-made car, it's not even a thought that would cross their mind. In short, impossible.
The vehicle comes fully loaded with premium features. It's a 4x4 vehicle, sits 5 in comfort, and is able to handle the rough terrain and the roads that we have in Kenya and in Africa reliably. Here at Mobius, we made sure that every product that we deliver, including this all-new Mobius 3, is a superior product, and buying local does not mean you have to compromise on quality.
A car built for Africa, by Africa. That was the promise. A powerful idea that captured the imagination. A vehicle not just assembled, but conceived on the continent, for the continent. The vision was a rugged machine, tough enough to conquer the unpaved roads that crisscross Africa, yet affordable enough for the aspirations of its rapidly growing middle class. For over a decade, Mobius Motors was more than just a company. It was a shining symbol of Kenyan innovation and a beacon of industrial ambition. It was a homegrown automotive company that dared to stand on a global stage and declare that Africa could build for itself. This was a story of ambition, national pride, and tangible progress. Then, the story took a sharp, devastating turn. In mid-2024, the dream that had burned so brightly for so long began to flicker and fade. It was like a powerful rocket, hailed as a triumph of local engineering, that inexplicably fizzled out on the launch pad just moments after ignition. The dream stalled. The production lines ground to a halt, and the factory doors, once a symbol of a bright future, were closed. On the 5th of August 2024, the final nail seemed to be hammered into the coffin as shareholders resolved to place the company into liquidation, leaving a nation to wonder what really happened. This wasn't a small-time startup. Mobius Motors was backed by millions of dollars, a visionary founder, and an idea that everyone believed in. But just when it looked like the end of the road, the story took one last unexpected turn. To understand the crisis that brought Mobius to its knees, you first have to understand the powerful dream that gave it life. The story of Mobius begins with Joel Jackson, a British entrepreneur who, while working in rural Kenya, had a profound realization. He saw a fundamental problem, a glaring gap in the market that was holding people back. The vehicles available were like trying to use a delicate teacup to hold bricks, a terrible and costly mismatch. On one end of the spectrum, you had brand new imported SUVs, gleaming with features but carrying price tags far too costly for the average local business or family. On the other end, you had a flood of cheap, second-hand imports from Japan and Europe cars designed for smooth asphalt and temperate climates, never intended for the punishing reality of African roads. The result of this mismatch was a common sight across the continent. A veritable graveyard of broken-down sedans lining the roadsides, their suspensions shattered and their undercarriages wrecked. This created a transport network that was unreliable, inefficient, and expensive, stifling business and opportunity. Jackson's vision was nothing short of revolutionary. Build a car specifically designed for this challenging environment. Think of it less like a modern luxury car and more like a dependable, unstoppable workhorse. A tool built for a single purpose and engineered to do it exceptionally well. Forget climate control, satellite navigation, and polished alloy wheels. The core focus would be on raw durability, a powerful steel chassis, exceptionally high ground clearance, and simple, robust mechanics that could be easily repaired. This was the philosophy that gave birth to the stripped-down, no-nonsense Mobius 2. The idea was electric. It resonated deeply, tapping into a powerful and growing narrative of African self-sufficiency and economic independence. Here, finally, was a company designing, engineering, and building a product for a uniquely African need, a solution from within. Investors were completely captivated by this vision. Over its lifetime, Mobius Motors raised what has been reported as a staggering $56 million, drawing in major backers including the London-based Playfair Capital, Kenyan industrial giant Chandaria Industries, and even the US International Development Finance Corporation, though it's important to note this figure included significant debt financing. With this formidable war chest, the company established a state-of-the-art production facility in Nairobi and began the monumental task of turning its ambitious blueprint into actual steel and glass. The hype was real, and a nation watched with pride. With a significant war chest of funding secured and a gleaming new factory in place, Mobius officially launched its first major consumer model, the Mobius 2, and soon after began development on its successor, the more refined Mobius III. On the surface, everything seemed to be on track. The dream was becoming a reality. But beneath the polished hood of the company, the engine was already starting to sputter. The first and perhaps most critical problem was demand. The entire business model of Mobius was built on the assumption of a huge, underserved market hungry for an affordable, durable vehicle. But when it came time to sell, Mobius found itself in a brutal marketplace reality. It was trying to sell a new, basic, and unproven meal right next to a world-famous fast food chain offering a feature-packed combo meal for roughly the same price. For the cost of a brand new, stripped-back Mobius, a potential buyer could get a slightly older, feature-rich second-hand Toyota or Nissan with a global reputation for reliability and readily available parts. Convincing customers to abandon the familiar and take a risk on a new, unproven local brand was a monumental and ultimately underestimated challenge. The company's heavy reliance on a pre-order system was an early warning sign that organic pull-through demand from the market was dangerously low. While demand proved weaker than expected, the internal costs of production were spiraling out of control. Building cars from the ground up is an incredibly capital-intensive business, a game of massive scale. The company's finances became like a bucket with a large hole in it. Millions of dollars poured in from investors were leaking out just as fast through the high costs of importing essential components and persistent supply chain disruptions. There was a deep irony in its situation. Mobius was building a car for Africa that was still heavily dependent on expensive parts from outside of Africa. It was desperately trying to achieve economies of scale in a market that simply wasn't scaling with it. Then came the external pressures. A major, prolonged tax dispute with the Kenya Revenue Authority (KRA) acted like a heavy anchor dropped on a ship that was already struggling to move forward. These protracted legal and financial battles were not only costly in terms of money, but they also drained valuable management time and created a cloud of uncertainty that spooked investors and partners. The dream of building an affordable car was being systematically crushed by the harsh reality of high production costs, weak demand, and crippling tax disputes. The financial cracks were visible long before the final collapse. By August of 2020, its debts had reportedly ballooned to over 649 million Kenyan shillings, a staggering figure that dwarfed its assets and signaled the deep trouble the company was in. By the middle of 2024, the road had finally run out. The leaks in the bucket had become a flood, and the engine had seized completely. On the 5th of August 2024, Mobius Motors, the great hope of Kenyan manufacturing, was officially placed into voluntary liquidation. Think of liquidation as a final public garage sale for a failed business. Every asset, from the factory machinery down to the office furniture, must be sold off to pay the long list of outstanding bills and creditors. It was a somber, heartbreaking announcement. For the employees, the early customers, and the nation that had cheered it on, this seemed to be the definitive, tragic end of the line. But then, in a plot twist worthy of a Hollywood movie, a lifeline appeared out of nowhere. It was the corporate equivalent of a last-minute rescue helicopter arriving just as the ship was about to slip beneath the waves for good. Just 9 days after the liquidation was announced, on the 14th of August 2024, the company declared it had accepted an acquisition bid from a then undisclosed buyer. The collapse was dramatically halted. The garage sale was called off. For months, speculation swirled until the rescuer was finally revealed. Silverbox, a Middle East-based investment and technology firm. Stepping in at the 11th hour, Silverbox acquired the struggling automaker, reviving Kenya's most visible homegrown car maker from the very brink of death and promising a new chapter. So, what really happened to Mobius Motors? For our business Autopsy, here's the verdict. The engine seized and the car was declared a total loss, headed for the scrapyard. But instead of being stripped for parts, it's been hauled into the garage for a full frame-up restoration. The simple answer is that it was like a promising, talented young boxer who stepped into the ring with a seasoned heavyweight champion. The ambition, the heart, and the local support were all there, but it was ultimately outmatched by the sheer brute power of the global auto market, the relentless flood of cheap imports, and the crushing weight of high production costs. Its powerful vision on its own was simply not enough to withstand the economic realities. But the story of Mobius is no longer a tragedy. It's a comeback story in the making. Its journey offers a powerful real-world lesson for entrepreneurs everywhere. A great blueprint is not the same as a finished building. Mobius had the blueprint for a truly great and necessary car, but it struggled to build the solid foundation of a sustainable business around it. The central challenge, which it never fully solved, was this. Competing with the established global second-hand market in Africa is incredibly, punishingly difficult. The journey of Africa's car, however, is far from over. Under its new ownership, Mobius has been granted a rare second chance. Silverbox has announced ambitious plans to resume production of the Mobius 3 and even launch a completely new model in the near future. The engine stalled, yes, but the driver is getting a second chance to restart it, this time hopefully with a better map and a clearer understanding of the road ahead. The Mobius saga now serves as a vital lesson, not of outright failure, but of incredible resilience. What do you think? With new ownership, fresh capital, and the hard-won lessons from its past, can Mobius finally fulfill its original promise? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks for watching.